And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, June 12th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So, with that being said, let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and Haason Reddick not being at Jets Minicamp, the start of Jets Minicamp. And I'll give you my thoughts on it. We'll talk about their situations, why they're not at minicamp, and whether it's a big deal or not. So I'll get into that because I know it's been a topic of conversation these last couple of days. So that'll be how we start off the show. Then in the second part of the show, we will talk about the Arizona Cardinals. I will break down their schedule for 2024, give you my early win-loss predictions for them. Then in the third part of the show, we're gonna talk about Megatron, Calvin Johnson, him talking about his single season receiving record and why he talked about how that it's a matter of time before that's broken. So we'll get into that. And who has the best chance of breaking that record? So we'll get into that. Then we'll talk about Travis Kelce, him talking about, his future in the NFL, how long he intends on playing. So we'll get into that. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about Joe Burrow, kind of reflecting on his past injuries. And we'll talk about that as well. So that's the rundown for the show today. So let's get into the first topic, which is discussing Aaron Rodgers and Haason Reddick not being at Jets minicamp. So Haason Reddick, the Jets acquired him from the Eagles earlier this offseason. So with him, it has more to do with the contract situation. And Robert Saleh kind of broke things down for us. He talked about, Reddick not being there. He talked about Rodgers not being at minicamp. They're both unexcused absences or inexcused. So, and this is mandatory minicamp. And I want to see if the article I have has quotes from Saleh talking about this. So we'll get into that right now. And I believe this article does have some quotes from Saleh. So yeah, this is. I think this is about Reddick. Saleh said, spoke to him over the weekend, appreciate the dialogue. He's in a really good place mentally, working his tail off like we already know, but he's choosing to sit out this one inexcused. So, yeah, that's on Haason Reddick. Then he said, so now this is about Rodgers. He said, Aaron and I spoke before OTAs started. He's been very good in communication. He's been here the entire time. It's inexcused, but he had an event that was very important to him, which he communicated. So that's what he had to say about both players. Like I said, when it comes to Haason Reddick, it's more of a contract issue. With Rodgers, he has an event that, he communicated with the Jets. So they were aware of this. That's why he's not there. Now, because it's Aaron Rodgers, a lot of people reacted in different ways. You had some people reacting like, oh, this is not a big deal. And then you have people on the other side acting like the sky is falling. Now, for me, I like to meet in the middle somewhere. And I understand where both sides are coming from. I do lean more towards, hey, this is not a big deal, but I will say, when you're coming off of a season where your season ended in 4 plays, and the Jets went out and they made a lot of moves this offseason. They drafted an offensive lineman. They brought in a few offensive linemen to try to, shore this offensive line up to protect the quarterback. And, they also went out and they drafted a wide receiver. They signed Mike Williams. A lot of new moving parts. You want to be on the same page. But at the same time, it's like, well, it's only the start of minicamp. And Rodgers was at OTAs, So it's not like he hasn't been there at all. He's been there the entire time. It's just something's come up that he made the Jets aware of, and he's not there at the moment. Which, yeah, in a lot of people's eyes, it's not a good look. I know one person put it as, with all the the negative reactions towards this, it's Aaron Rodgers derangement syndrome, which I understand that because, listen, Aaron Rodgers has been a topic of conversation a lot over the course of the last few years for things that he says, and we understand that. And I know a lot of people don't agree with some of the things he said. There's people that do agree with what he says. I'm not going to get into it specifically because that's not what this show is. But he's a controversial figure. And him not showing up to minicamp, people look at that as, well, he doesn't care. And I know when I was watching the Michael Kay show yesterday, they did bring up something that Rodgers said earlier this offseason, and I think I still have the tab opened up on my phone because I wanted to bring up what he said. Yeah, so this is what he said after the Jets season ended. And he said flush the BS. Now, I'm not going to say the actual word, but he said, anything in this building that we're doing individually or collectively that has nothing to do with winning needs to be assessed. If you want to be a winning organization and put yourself in position to win championships and be competitive, everything that you do matters, and the BS has nothing to do with winning needs to get out of the building. So that'll be the focus moving forward. That's the focus of these, it's as exit interviews in brackets. So people are kind of using, I don't want to say people are using those words, but actually, no, people are using those words on social media kind of against him because why is he not here? We don't know what exactly the event is. Some people have their theories, but we don't know exactly what the event is. But yeah, this event that he's going to is important to him and doesn't have anything to do with football. So yeah, people are taking what he said in the exit interviews and kind of using it against him. And that it's looked at as a distraction. Now, the Jets don't view it that way. They don't view it as a big deal. But he's not there. He's not there right now. But actually, my friend texted us in our group chat a tweet. And where did it go? Oh, yeah, here it is. This is from Connor Hughes. So he tweeted, Aaron Rodgers planned this trip when he was still rehabbing. The Jets have known about it from the moment there was an overlap with the release of the minicamp schedule. Rodgers is unexcused because you can't excuse a trip, but not a contract dispute. Haason Reddick. Semantics, but there's no unrest inside the building. Oh, semantics. I said that really weird. But there's no unrest inside the building. The Jets don't think it's a big deal. Not sure why the world is reacting differently. Rodgers missing these 2 days after being at every voluntary workout the last 2 years will have zero impact on what the Jets and Rodgers accomplish this coming season. So you heard that. And then you had someone tweet out headlines full of hot air talking about Rodgers and then call him Aaron Dodgers. And it shows Rodgers' uniform, but he's not in it. Yeah, so that's on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it these days. So, yeah, there's a lot of people making a big deal about it. And my friend brought up a good point. He said he went to every involuntary event last year and his Achilles, went. But he said he missed every possible voluntary event in the back end of his Packers tenure and won back-to-back MVPs. Yeah, look, and I think Aaron Rodgers, he's Aaron Rodgers. He can miss some time. And especially because, again, he's been at every voluntary workout. So it's not like he was not there at all. It's just he's not there now. But, yeah, I understand. It's a bad look, in some people's eyes. Because, again, this is a big year. And for the Jets fan, they want to see success. And when they see things like this, they're going to react. Like, why is he not there? Because he was looked at as the savior. And his season ended in 4 plays. So I get the frustration, but he's going to be back, and he's going to be ready to rock and roll. And listen, I hope he goes out there and has a great season. And I had the Jets ranked 1 in the AFC East, which is highly controversial. But I think this team could be really good this year. If Rodgers can play decent at the quarterback position, I think the Jets are going to be good. He doesn't have to be great. He just has to be good enough. So that's my thoughts on it. I lean more towards it's not a big deal, but I understand, like, hey, you only played 4 snaps. It's a better way to put it, last year. Like, you got to, build a rapport with some of these new players. And, this is an important year. But I get it. But this was dealt with months ago. It's just, none of us were aware of it until now. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the situation. So let me know what you guys think. Is this a big deal? Is it not a big deal that Rodgers is not at minicamp? And same thing with Haason Reddick. I really didn't talk about Haason Reddick. I just was focusing on Rodgers. But yeah, Haason Reddick, they brought him in to replace Bryce Huff, and right now he's not there. So we'll see if that gets resolved as well. But let me know what you guys think about the situation. So we're going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we will break down the Arizona Cardinals schedule. I'll give you my early win-loss predictions for them, and that is what we will do when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.